Hello and welcome back to Ask the Surveyor, the podcast where we demystify the world of property surveys and help you make informed decisions about your next move. I'm your host, Lee from Ashton Lee Surveyors, and today we've got a very special guest joining us, Andrew McColl, the chairman of the Residential Property Surveyors Association, or the RPSA for short. Andrew is here to share his wealth of experience and give home buyers like you some honest, practical advice about the home buying journey, surveys and what to watch out for. Whether you're buying your first home or your forever home, this is the episode you won't want to miss. Thanks for coming, Andrew.
Well, Lee, what an introduction. But I think there should be a bit of a disclaimer here, actually, Lee, because we actually have been friends for 30-odd years. So
yes, we have.
But I am here with two hats. Number one of my best friends, and number two, as chairman of the RPSA. If I can talk anywhere about the importance of surveys and surveyors and why to get a survey, I'll always be there. Simple as that, really. One thing I did want to say to you, Lee, actually, is I've had a few meetings lately, and I just want to hark back to when I first became a surveyor. When I first became a surveyor, it was a startling fact that only 1 in 5 people got a survey. And I thought, wow, that's just completely bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And in meetings lately, and there was some research that was done by a big national surveying organisation, it's only 1 in 10. 1 in 10 people bother to get a survey. And I don't think it's because people don't want to have surveys. I think that people don't always understand what a survey is, how important a survey is. So everything you're doing with social media to get the message out there about the importance of surveys is great. It's a great thanks.
We recognise there's a gap in the knowledge. And the average person, they say, moves every 11 years. So they've forgotten, and things have moved on in 11 years, especially as the bank surveyors most of the time don't even go to the property. So it's more important they do have one. So I've known you for 30 years, but not everyone has. So Let's talk about where you grew up. I know it wasn't in Essex, but you've resided in Essex most of your life now. But
Well, I was born in Liverpool, in a place called Crosby, which is now Merseyside. And I don't know if all your viewers know that you are technically a fellow Scouser, because weren't you born in Birkenhead, just a little bit over the water?
No, my family was, but I was born in Blackpool.
So you're more than a northerner than I am. So
maybe
that's interesting. So,
but I was there for a year.
Oh. Okay.
Got sick of the rides. By the time I was 2, I'd had enough of the roller coaster lifestyle.
And we actually first met in Essex, didn't we? Because we both lived in Stamford-le-Hope.
Yeah.
So
comes up a few times in our podcasts.
Yes. Lovely little place. We're not living there now. It has changed a little bit, but
not for the good.
Well.
It had a lovely village feel when I first moved there.
Yeah, it has changed a little bit.
Yeah. So, how old was you when you come down? What was the reason?
Blimey, O'Reilly. I actually came down when I was about 21 for a party, and was invited to, and I actually just never went back.
Right.
I got a job on a building site helping some dry liners, and I became a dry liner, and I loved it. Building partitions, ceilings, the lift shafts in Canary Wharf, and then I got sucked into project management for an interior finishing company, and then just basically rose through the ranks. In fact, we both worked at a couple of firms together, didn't we, Lee?
We did, yes.
Yes, and you were there a little bit longer than I was, but we were both in the very high-stress world of conversions of buildings, house building, finishing. So I think really that's where we learnt a lot of the nuts and bolts of what a building is, and how it is actually put together. It's interesting. analogy, actually, that a lady from the New Homes Quality Board, she says, buildings are incredible things when you buy a house, because it's something that is built in a muddy field over 9 months with no weather protection by 200 different people. And I think you'd be surprised that even at the early stages of building things, what could actually go wrong with them. But I think we both had a very grounded education, as it were, in buildings, building pathology, how building works. I think more so, I don't know if you've told the full story about your good self, but you actually did an apprenticeship in carpentry and joinery, didn't you?
Yes.
So you learned the hardware on the tools.
And that's right. And the first recession came along, and then I was offered a job as in customer care, that's where I started my journey of fault finding and finding issues with buildings.
Yes.
So we would be sent a fault, and then we was sent there and we'd find it and then fix it. But you can't fix something until you find what the issue is and what's causing it. And then from a young age, and I've always been fascinated by that.
Well, Lee, I know for a fact that you can fit a kitchen, you can fit a bathroom, you can tile, you can hang doors. You are certainly one of the best painters I've ever come across. You can tape and joint. You can even do a little bit of electrics as well, I suppose, even though you shouldn't.
The sound, the video guy who does this podcast, he's sitting there, he said the sound in his podcast studio is amazing. And that comes from dry lining and learning about acoustics. And,
so it's coming out of my mouth.
That's why the sound, it mostly is at the moment. So, and what? So you spent many years, as I know, but you spent many years in construction, running jobs, and then you had a change of career, your sidestep actually, into surveying. How did that come along?
Well, I think the truth of the matter is that when you're in project management, house building and refurbishment of commercial properties, it is a very high pressure job, on time, on budget. And if it rains, it's your fault. You know yourself with these things. And I actually just think I'd got to the stage where I just thought, do I really need to be doing this? Do I really need to not have a weekend because I'm worried about a meeting on Monday and hitting targets and deadlines? And one thing I always knew is I always loved looking at buildings. My job was to make sure things were built right. They were straight line and level. And built to a good quality. So we spent more time inspecting things than having meetings and things. But we're doing a lot of inspections, and I thought I just want to carry on in this field. And actually, I accidentally saw an ad in a paper, and it was at the time when we had home information packs. I don't know if you remember
also
what they were.
HIPs.
Yeah, also known as HIPs, which I think were a really good idea at the time. But there was they decided that they wanted consumers to have a survey before they bought a property. So they decided to create a lot of home inspectors, so a lot of surveyors retrained to be able to carry out these inspections.
Because of the shortage of surveyors.
Yes, and they brought an awful lot of people in to actually do it, and then it got pulled. The plug was pulled on it. So
was that because of change of government or change in the housing minister? Or
basically, yes, the appetite for it just wasn't there. So there were a lot of us that had trained as a home inspector that were a little bit in the wilderness. And we got together. We formed the RPSA, which is the Residential Property Surveyors Association, and we all started off doing something called a home condition survey rather than mainstream building surveys and home buyer reports. But I can talk about home condition surveys later. But the RPSA has been a fantastic organisation within the industry. It certainly gets equal billing at the top table, as it were. If you go to the government website, how to buy a house, where to go to, it actually says go to the RPSA, go to the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. we are recognised there, and especially by the consumer organisations and a lot of banks and high street banks and insurance companies. But the RPSA is a slightly different organisation because we represent independent.
Different to RICS?
Yeah, RICS is more of a global accreditation body as it was, yes, very much in the corporate end of the world. But the RPSA is a not-for-profit organisation that represents independent small practice surveyors out there, who I think are the real building surveyors for looking at properties. But we're not anti-RICS or anti-anything. I mean, most of our members have a RICS accreditation or CABE, Chartered Association of Building Engineers, or are structural engineers. So we think that there's more than one game in town, and as long as someone is a good, competent, accredited surveyor, we welcome them into the RPSA.
I mean, I'm a proud member of RPSA and a member of RICS. Mm-hmm. They both give different attributes, but I'd say to the independent surveyor like myself, there is lots more support from the RPSA, which is for the small company surveyor like myself is a godsend.
Well, we're genuinely there to help people, whether it's the surveyors, even the general public, the consumer. We are just there to help and promote good surveying practices generally. I think that the ethos of the RPSA is that surveyors should carry out a full and thorough inspection of properties. It is as simple as that.
Definitely. The standards do vary vastly in our industry, which I've had a customer tell me yesterday, but I won't go into that. Can you explain what the RPSA is and how it helps both surveyors and home buyers?
Ooh, that's that's a where to start question, really. I mean, I think one of the things is this. Okay, the RPSA as a representative body for members. Number one, our members are all part of the Property Ombudsman Scheme. Okay, so the consumer should have confidence that if something did go wrong, that there's independent arbitration. And I think sometimes if things go wrong, it's sometimes just a little bit of bad communication, someone not understanding exactly, what a survey is or what a survey does. But the consumer should have that reassurance that something is taken seriously, and the members of the RPSA will submit to an independent review and submit to the decision. And I think it makes sure that standards are very, very high. The other thing about RPSA, which is good for consumers, is that we have something on our website called Verify Surveyor. So someone can phone up the RPSA and say, is Lee Robinson a surveyor? Okay, and we can actually give them a small little code. It's a 3 or 4 digit code. They can go onto the website, put in this code, and there'll be a nice picture of Lee Robinson confirming that he is a surveyor, and there'll be a short bio about what he does and how to contact. And I think that's good as well, because there's a lot of people out there that say, I'm a surveyor, or I'm part of this, or I'm accredited, and it's a terrible thing to say about the surveying community, but it's like anything. There is the good and the bad. Yeah,
I mean, RICS and RPSA are different, and the RPSA is more focused on individual surveyors. So, I mean, we have to show you our insurance. Mm-hmm. That's one check that you do, and also you physically check or vet or randomly check different survey reports, don't you? So
we do. We do have QA procedures, which yes, we do check. So we also have a national panel that our surveyors will sign up to, and we check that everything is in place that should be in place. And yes, we do have QA. The other thing that we can do is surveyors can actually say, can you have a look at this survey for us? So we can actually look at the survey, do a QA, or give help and advice in an area that might be unfamiliar to them. Because what we would always say to any surveyor is, do not report outside your competence, okay? And as good as we all think we are, we're all going to see something new that we've never seen before. And I think that it doesn't make you a bad surveyor if there's something that you haven't seen before, but you actually have to know when to step outside and say, that's a little bit outside my competency, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to put that in the report. Okay, if I don't know the expert to talk to, or I could talk to someone in the RPSA, I would know exactly how to report on that. Or if I didn't, I would know exactly where to direct my clients to get some more specialist information about such things.
It's like that scenario we had with the watermill.
Oh,
so
yes.
98% of the inspection was standard stuff, like walls and solid walls and historic buildings. But there was one bit that I couldn't understand and didn't have experience in, and that was the paddles and of the watermill, and why the water was rising higher. And you put me onto a surveyor who's done quite a few, and that helped, and it just sharing the knowledge.
Yeah, I it was one of those ones where I'm glad that you did do it. I mean, it was a beautiful building, wasn't it? Really beautiful old building, and the only quirky thing you didn't know about was the paddle at the back. Well, but you were honest with the client from day one about that, and at least you bull by the horns and got it sorted.
I know a lot more.
And I did notice we never got invited to the barbecue, Lee.
Yeah, I don't think they bought it in the end. But, it was something to do with the builders and the boundary lines anyway. So, it
was nearly there.
Yeah, I definitely had a house envy. It was a beautiful property, and I do have house envy quite a lot actually. There's some beautiful properties out there. Not all buildings are in poor state of repair.
Now, is it true that you haven't shown me this in advance? Because I have not got a clue what you're going to ask me. There's nothing tricky in there, is there?
No.
Oh, good. Cool.
No, because you've been doing the RPSA work for many years now.
Yeah, I have.
How long has it been?
Well, I've been a founding member of the RPSA, which I think is about 15 years now. I have probably I was the vice chairman for about 8 years, and then on the 1st of January this year, I've been made chairman. Alan Milstein, who was the chairman for about 10 years, has now stepped aside and concentrating on some other industry issues. Great man. Spent a lot of time with him in the last couple of weeks, going to various meetings at the Conveyancing Association, the Property Management Institute Conference, Conveyancing Matters event, and actually next week we're going to the Law Society together, and again it is all about promoting good surveying practice. Alan's very active on something called the Home Buying and Selling Group, which is
who is Alan?
Industry group, and that is
Alan Milstein.
So it's co-chaired by Kate Faulkner, OBE, very nice lady indeed, and Beth, and they're doing a lot of hard work looking at better upfront information, property logbooks, new products, seller surveys. They're really doing their bit to bang the drum for the importance of surveying within our industry. Same thing that you're doing.
So we touched on educating consumers. Mm-hmm. Many first-time buyers are confused about surveys. Can you break down the different types and when each is appropriate?
Well, the different types. This is an interesting one, and I'll probably tell you off a little bit, actually, because earlier on you said the naughty word, the bank's surveyors. Banks don't have surveyors, they have valuers. And that's the problem. The whole of the industry calls a valuer a surveyor. Now, Simon Compton, financial advisor, I had a beer with him the other day, and he was saying to me, he said, it's still driving me nuts, the fact that all his colleagues will say, has the bank done their survey yet? Has the bank done their survey yet? They're not doing a survey. This is the thing that's causing the biggest amount of confusion in the whole industry. The lawyers are calling valuers surveyors, and it's confusing. It is really, really confusing to the general public.
We keep it brief. So what the banks or mortgage companies, they send out a surveyor, and that purely is to see if the property is worth the money they're borrowing. So if the mortgage defaults, the bank will get their money back. Also, they do have if they go there, which is getting more and more rarer, if they go to the property, sometimes they won't even go into the loft, they just have a quick look to see if it's actually there and not falling down. Where also they do drive-bys, and also they do desktop surveys. I know it's not a survey, it's a valuation, but they call it. There's so much confusion by our own professionals calling them surveyors, calling them surveys, and they're not. They're just a valuation.
They are. And I want to expand on this a little bit, actually, Lee. The big surveying organisations that carry out valuations, usually the person that does a valuation, they do 6 of these in a day. They're probably at a property for 15 minutes. And as you rightly said, they are just looking to see if the bank's money is safe. And I often get people phoning me up saying the surveyor came round, he was only here for 15 minutes, blimey. And actually, I actually think it puts some people off having what they think is going to be a survey, because they just think that they're paying a sum of money for someone to be at a house for 15 minutes. It really, really isn't the case. Now, the other thing is this, that, okay, they do 6 of these a day. What also throws a bit of mud in the water is if they see something, just a little crack on render or some dampness, then they haven't got time to investigate it. So then the mortgages comes back on hold, so you can have to get more specialist reports. And I don't think that really throws a spanner in the works. But the interesting thing about bank valuations is 60% of them are done by desktop. 60%. So the odds of them getting it right and giving you some consumer protection is really low. So 60% of those houses that no one went to, they could all have spray foam in the loft.
Well, there's that famous story of the young couple saved up, lived in their parents' house while they was adults, actually saved the money, took them 10 years to get a deposit, moved into a house. They didn't have a survey. Both of their parents said to them, you don't need a survey because you're having a bank. The mortgage survey does it for you. And they had subsidence. They went to claim all their insurance. The insurance company said, where's your survey? We didn't have a survey, but we had a mortgage survey. Well, that's in their terms and conditions. If you don't have a level 2 or level 3, it voids the claim. So they lost everything. They lost, and that is
Absolutely.
And that is pure down to pure old advice, which is incorrect.
Lee, you've nail on the head, absolute nail on the head there. And I've actually seen it before, where you get, I call it Bob the Builder advice, where the estate agent says, or poor estate agent, should we say, might say you don't need a survey. And I've always said to clients, okay, let's put that in writing. They never will. But the thing we have to, I think the customer, the consumer, has to be aware that houses are sold as seen. Buyer beware. You have no consumer rights whatsoever. So if you buy a property and you don't get a survey, as you quite rightly said, and you end up with a major problem, the insurance companies will tell you to take a running jump, basically. And I think also that when you make an offer on a property, it's on what you reasonably know about. Now, let's face it, Lee, how many times has someone said to you, I've only viewed the property once, or they've said, I've only viewed the property twice, and actually they feel pressured to make an offer on the property before someone else comes in and does it. And by the time that it all goes through, they've forgotten what the inside of the property is like. It's just bonkers, isn't it, with things. So you go along, they've looked at it twice, spent 20 minutes with their rose-coloured glasses. You go in there, you inspect the property, you spend many, many hours looking at everything, every nook and cranny, which is a non-invasive inspection, of course. And then you tell them things that they would not have known about. Well, number one, they could potentially use that for some negotiation if need be. But I think that the biggest thing we want to do, Lee, is not have a client move into a property and get loads of surprises with things. And although surveys can focus on the negative a little bit on times, I think and I know we're not there to throw a spanner in the works. We're there to help our clients. We're there to talk to our clients. We're there to put things into perspective and get them where they need to go. But one really important point, I know I'm talking like a good one, that most people don't realise, is your lawyer is not going to the property. So we are the eyes and ears of your legal team. So if they don't know about it, what can they do about it? So we go in and we say, you're taking walls down there, chimney breast, to build an extension at the back. The lawyer needs to know this.
We spoke about this episode 3 with Michelle. She's a conveyancer, local.
Right.
Yes, and she expressed the importance, especially our two companies. We use a software system where there's a page where it's just for conveyancers, because what conveyancers don't want was, we're doing thorough surveys, but they haven't got time to look at 150 pages of information, so that's why we put it into one little section. That's what helps.
Yeah, it used to be called what we call Section C.
I'd like to add as well, there are companies out there, and I'd be careful what sector it is, what I say, but they will over-egg a issue to further protect their PI insurance. So if there is a leaking gutter and it's making the wall wet, me and you would say, repair the gutter and the wall will dry out, and make sure you don't decorate till you make sure it's dry. Where the corporate, I said it now, but the corporate companies, there are some out there who will further protect their insurance and further recommend they have a damp survey, because they're going around to so many and they haven't got time to diagnose it. They will say further investigation. So then you get a damp specialist company come in who have got sales motivated advice, and then say that's £6,000 worth of work, when really it's a £50 gutter repair, and then it spoils the whole sale, things break down, and that's why we get a bad name with mortgage advisors, especially estate agents, because of this. The industry, certain sectors do that.
Well, I think the difference is the corporate surveyors are on quotas. They have to do a certain amount, and certainly they do a lot more inspections and reports than an independent surveyor would do, because the independent small practice surveyor will take their time to do things properly, thoroughly, and go that extra mile. Because actually, we want good client reviews and run repeat business, and the only way you get that in life is to actually give good service to your clients.
And we've been with both our companies passionate about customer service.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, they are investing from 200 grand to millions, and it's a big investment they do. They work their whole life to have a mortgage and serve the mortgage, and then there's certain sectors, or even, I mean, there's some bad independent surveyors, of course there is, but and they're serving their PI insurance and not the customer's journey, which is the whole point of having a survey, is to them to know everything, that, a balance of view of the property.
Yeah.
Anyway, got me going there. Moving on. So that leads itself to the next question. What's the most common mistake first-time buyers make when it comes to a survey? And we both said it's the assumption that a bank's mortgage survey So we just cap that, or just is not having a independent survey and just having the drive-by.
Yeah, and I think that the whole of the industry, everyone's guilty on this. I think that there are a lot of law firms that are guilty. I had a friend that's has just bought a place, and I took a keen interest in what recommendations they made, and there was in the small print there about having a survey done, but there was more. Do you want any advice on removal people? Do you want any? It was more aimed at other referral type things than getting a survey done. I do actually think that there are some law firms out there that actually, why would they encourage someone to have a survey done? It's more work, it's more data for them to go through and analyse. And I think it's terrible that when and if there are law firms that aren't actively saying, look, make sure you get a survey. You are aware that a valuation isn't a survey. I mean, I know great law firms, so do you, out there. But I think equally, even financial advisors are a little bit guilty of, well, okay, we've got the mortgage there in principle, I'm on to the next one. There's an interesting fact, actually, Lee. You're saying about estate agents, and a lot of estate agents don't want you to have a survey because they think it's going to throw a spanner in the works. Now, in Scotland, where you have the Scottish One survey, okay, do you know what? There's a 43% less chance, 43% less likely to fall through, okay, if a survey is carried out. So that's a fact. So you think that...
explain a bit about the Scottish system.
Well, the Scottish system is a little bit different. They have something called the single survey, very different for how we do things here. So it is I believe, I don't know so much about it, but I believe it is a mandatory survey that is carried out.
Is that done by the buyer or seller?
I think it is for both. I'm not 100% sure.
Who instructs it, or is it done mandatory?
I think you have to do it. You have to have one carried out. I have a feeling that it's the seller that has to get this survey together, but I'm not an expert on the Scottish system.
If I move to Scotland and practice in Scotland, I will definitely learn more about it.
Yes, but as I say, having a survey, 43% less chance of it all falling to bits. So you would think that every estate agent on the planet would be saying, get a survey done, get a survey done.
Are we any chance of us adopting that system? England and Wales?
I don't think there'd be enough surveyors.
Oh, okay.
There wouldn't be enough surveyors to do it.
It's an ageing practice, yeah.
There are things that the home buying and selling groups are actually looking at. And funny enough, I have been asked many times this year to do a seller's survey. What's a seller's survey? Okay, the person that's selling a high-end house, and actually they have a bit of anxiety, and I think you talk about seller's anxiety on other things that
buyer's
you do.
Anxiety as well.
But there's a seller's anxiety. So the seller's going to say to himself, what's going to happen when a surveyor's come around? What's he going to find? What's he going to see? What's going to happen when a valuer comes round? So we can actually go in there and actually give them an overview of what we think that they might need to do or what they shouldn't bother doing, because people go off on a tangent and do all sorts of weird things and make things worse for themselves. It's one of these things where there's a little hairline crack and they'll cover it up, and us going in, we know that they've covered something up and we're flagging it because we don't know what the whole story is behind it. And actually, if they'd just taken some advice to leave it alone, okay, they wouldn't be creating a problem for themselves.
The can of damp seal outside the front door with the brush still sitting on it. It's usually a good one.
Yeah.
Or the smell of paint and stuff like that. But
I mean, a lot of people selling a house think a problem is a problem that isn't a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, and they try and hide things. And they just make things worse. We're here to. I think anyone buying a house is going to expect some issues. Okay, they just want to know about it, and it's not going to bother them. Their rose-coloured glasses aren't going to be thrown off because there's a bit of poor skirting board or a little bit of dampness in a corner in a house that was built in 1850. Of course, you're going to get a little bit of dampness. It's not the end of the world, but it is our job to put things into perspective in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and both our companies do balance reports showing the good and the bad.
Yes.
And which helps buyer anxiety.
Yes, of course.
Doesn't help seller anxiety. That's a different thing. But yeah. And going back to the estate agents, the reason why they don't like surveyors is because of the other type of surveyors who just over-egg stuff, overanalyze, and just to further protect their PI again, and which they're selling a nice house which has got a few maybe maintenance issues, and they lose sales, and they got to spend more money remarketing.
Yes, it's the what we call the doctor death syndrome, where some surveyors have that reputation of being doctor death. Oh, they're going to turn up. That's the end of that sale. So
a friend of mine showed me a report actually, and it was so over the top. It said the gates had rusty screws in the hinges. The gate could fall off and kill a child. Which, I mean, it possibly could in an extreme millions to one chance, but that's just over.
Well, I was put it in my survey, watch out for gates. No, that is bonkers. I mean, that is really bonkers. I mean, I think that we always have to report on health and safety. Even I had one the other day, actually. It was a lady selling a house, and she'd had spray foam. She had it all removed. She had some polystyrene in the loft, and we're saying, well, we have to tell a client that that's a health and safety issue. But in reality, it's an easy fix. And she's saying, well, what if I get rid of it? And I said, well, we can't be involved in your negotiations, but at least you know that is something that we have to tell our clients. Anything to do with health and safety, we have to do. Interesting one, Lee, if you want to look at it. I wrote a blog on the RPSA website about the Building Safety Act 2022. And it was a talk by the Health and Safety Executive saying about after Granville and buildings and building safety. And anybody involved within our industry, including surveyors, has a legal responsibility in respect of health and safety. So if you look at a building and you see something, you need to report it. You need to report. Yeah, you need to say, well, these polystyrene tiles, you need to get rid of them, and not just get rid of them. What's the consequences of not getting rid of them?
Assessing the risks.
Exactly. And
I would say the rusty screws is an over-assessed risk.
I think you might be a little bit right. They should be galvanised, eh?
and also the story when I done a survey for you a few years ago for your company, where I advised that a condensation in the loft introduced some ventilation.
It was a low pitch roof, wasn't it?
Low pitch roof. Introduced some ventilation, and they then made a complaint now to spend $10,000. But so they didn't read the report and didn't action the advice in the report. But then they and said that a roofing guy is put it right. He sprayed the roof with spray foam.
Yes, I know.
Which couldn't have done anything worse.
Well, wait till he tries to sell the house.
What advice can we give first-time buyers and other buyers is read the report and action the report, the recommendations to keep your properties healthy. Well, and from devaluing.
Well, I mean, read a report. I mean, I know your report's backwards. There are plenty of photographs in there. There's plenty of descriptions. There's a traffic light system of basically 1, 2, 3, isn't there? So a red 3 or a green 1. So if there's a green there, that's fine. Okay. If there is a 2, there must be something to do. Okay, it could be quite minor, and if there's a 3, you really need to take note and have a chat. Or it's a health and safety issue. We flagged those as well. But yeah, people need to have a survey, and not only that, they need to be able to use a surveying firm that actually they can give a ring anytime and just actually ask for a little bit of help and advice. And I think we would always prefer that than them going off on a tangent, talking to some tradesman who is incentivised to earn money.
Yeah.
The latest thing that drives me absolutely nuts is someone I talk to, they say, oh, a roofer knocked on the door and he said, you got a problem with your roof, like that. And it got me worried, so they come and have a good look at the roof and say, oh, you need a new roof. And then someone says, oh, bought the house 2 years ago, the surveyor never said anything. Oh, no, you definitely need a new roof. And it's like, well, phone us, talk to us.
Porous tiles is a good one the roofers do.
Don't just take the word for a tradesman.
Concrete tiles become porous, which is crazy. Just getting even a good reason to have a survey. Touching on photos, we had an instance where within a few months of the customer moving in, they had subsidence. They knew it wasn't there because we put plenty of photographs in the report showing that there wasn't cracks in the. They got wired, didn't they? Very quick. And they went to claim on the insurance, the home insurance. The home insurance said they must have been there, the cracks. We think you should claim against your surveyor. So having the photographs helped them not be piggy in the middle and go to the insurance group, to the surveyor's insurance group, and they said, Lee, can you give us the full photos, the full resolution photos? And she had a successful claim within a week because the photos proved that the cracks wasn't there, and it was, unfortunately, you can't predict it's going to have subsidence 2 months later, but there wasn't any at that time. So photos are really important, and that lends itself also goes on to why you should have a survey. Or if you don't suspect any issues, that they have a survey to validate their insurance. So if they do have, I'm not saying that insurance companies will suggest or try and get away from having a claim, but they may suggest that the issue was there at the time of the survey. And by having a surveyor who puts photographs in the report, first protects them and validates any claim.
Yeah, I agree with you absolutely 100% on that. And especially, actually, the whole of the southeast of England basically is clay. Sits on clay, and clay can swell as well, and it can shrink. And, it hits it home why surveys are so important, because our primary function is to say it sits on firm foundation and it's structurally sound. That's what we do, and more so the importance, the fact that there is so much clay that property sits on, and it doesn't mean that clay is necessarily a problem. It's just a fact of life of this area, isn't it?
So the advice we can give is make sure you have a survey, either the very least that they collect photos, the surveyor takes photos.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of surveyors that will not put one picture in a level 2 because they feel that a level 2 is a lesser inspection. When I know us 2 companies, we do the highest level inspection. Okay, the reports vary in format, but not in inspection. So how can a buyer tell if a surveyor is trustworthy or competent?
Well, that is a difficult one, isn't it? I think there's their own due diligence that they need to do. I suppose that there's feedback on their websites. They can check that someone is properly accredited and who they're accredited to, and which organisation that they are members of. And of course, there are registers or phone calls that you can make to make sure that is the case. I'm a little bit more bang the drum for RPSA members, because we know for a fact that they're members of the Property Ombudsman Scheme, which is important, and we would always verify that one of our members is a current practicing member. And
they're insured, and you have a look at their surveys.
Yes.
And even if there's nothing wrong in there, you encourage customer service, maybe more photos or more annotating photos and stuff like that.
I think most survey customers that we generally have are recommendations from lawyers and other property professionals. You do a lot with social media out there. and you're getting yourself noticed, and let's face it, you're getting a lot of positive feedback and doing a great job, Lee.
Thank you. I've always been told that social media doesn't work in surveying, and I just, as I see, even sitting in a restaurant, everyone's on their phone, even older generations than us. So it is the way forward, I think. And I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff like that, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Who buys a Haynes manual now? It's all on YouTube.
Well, there you go. If I'm sitting in a restaurant, my wife will not let me look at her phone. I'll tell you that now. Yeah. Or you, if you were there as well.
Well, we've been in a concert and you've been answering emails, which is another story.
Yes.
Rock concert, by the way. Are there any property issues that surveyors are seeing more frequently, like spray foam insulation, subsidence, Japanese knotweed?
Well, it's all interesting stuff. I think it's interesting that Japanese knotweed is the thing that everybody seems to know about. But you know, Lee, there are over 100 types of invasive, non-native plant life in this country that cause all sorts of problems. And the new one is bamboo, which is actually not on the list as an invasive species as yet as we talk, but it certainly will be. And that's one of the great things about having a survey done anyway. Everybody thinks that we just look at the house. No, we don't. We look at the bigger picture. We look around the curtilage. We look at the lay of the land. We look where boundaries are. And yes, are there any triffids or Japanese knotweed or bamboo around? And these things can cause problems.
I'm definitely seeing more issues with bamboo where the neighbours have got it, and it's sprouting up in the middle of neighbours' lawns, 2 gardens up and stuff like that. So the advice on bamboo is definitely plant it in pots if you like bamboo.
Well, it definitely is. And it's quite funny, really, because 10 years ago, bamboo just didn't seem to be a problem. And it's becoming more and more of a problem. I don't know if because of garden centres selling that particular type and people are planting it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a trend in a Chelsea garden show.
Yeah.
So that's where the trends start, from them sort of gardens.
But it's Japanese knotweed is the biggest issue, and one of the biggest issues with Japanese knotweed is people not understanding it and just chopping it down or trying to hide it, and that's one of the worst things that
it's
that
not banned in every country, is it? It's only a few countries that it's banned. If anyone goes to New York and wants to know what Japanese knotweed looks like, is go to Central Park. Actually, on one of my little reels on social media, actually shows it, and it is full of Japanese knotweed. And I asked a local, is there treatment plans? Because she knew the park inside out, and she wasn't aware of the plant. It didn't. It's not the awareness over there. It's because it's not banned and they don't talk about it. And once I focused it, once I realised it's not banned and it's not. The awareness of it is not highlighted. It's on roundabouts, it's on verges, it's everywhere.
I know 2 or 3 places that there's Japanese knotweed, and it's been left alone. It's been there for years. I actually take students and people to go and look at it so they can see what it is like firsthand. And Japanese knotweed is a fascinating plant. Obviously, it comes from Japan. It used to grow on the slopes of volcanoes, and slopes of volcanoes, a lot of loose rock and stones. And the nature of the Japanese knotweed is it basically has roots that just spread out everywhere and bind things together. And that's why the Victorians brought it in to line railway cuts or railway lines, because it basically held the ground together. So we have more instances where there are railway lines,
which becomes a more problem because it shrinks back in the winter, and then the banks, with the more rain we're having, the banks can't hold it because it's shrunk back, and they're having more banks.
But it's one of these things you see in the media about bamboo knotweed. It can just break through concrete, and actually it can. And one of the reasons behind that is that every now and then with the volcanoes, the volcano would go off and the lava would come down, kill the knotweed apart from the roots would survive. It would cool down and it would grow
through cracks, is what I understand.
And it would be able to break through.
It breaks through any loose, whether there's sunlight. How are surveyors adapting to challenges like climate change or regulatory changes?
Well, climate change, now that is interesting because here I wrote another blog very recently about this on the RPSA website, because the Law Society are making everybody a bit more aware about climate change. And I think that all surveyors need to rethink very, very slightly how they report and say about the future. So, for example, we're going to get more flash rain. So should gutters be bigger capacity gutters? Are the gutters going to be able to cope there? It could be a house with a soakaway, and I'm seeing more and more actually where soakaways are not coping because they're becoming completely full and gardens are becoming saturated. So we all have to be a lot more aware of it. I find myself also with more concerned with roofs, severe weather, winds, hurricanes, and I look at roofs and I think this really needs a bit of diagonal bracing, cross bracing, extra bracing, which is a really low cost thing to do, but could make a massive difference, an absolute massive difference with more extreme weather with things. Definitely. So I think global warming is something that we need to be conscious of. We need to up our game. We need to constantly review what we're doing and what advice we're giving with it. And I will say, okay, I as a surveyor, okay, when I moved to where I moved, I bought a house on the top of a hill. Clever me, like that. Flooding? No, I'm on the top of a hill. But what I didn't realise was, oh my goodness, we can get hit by some storms, and things are getting worse. So we've certainly learnt that if you don't want a gazebo in next door's garden, make sure you put it next door's swimming pool.
I remember that.
Yeah, put it away. We built that one, didn't we?
I know, sturdy.
It was sturdy, but that disappeared there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm a surveyor. I bought a house on a hill, not thinking so much about extreme wind.
That gazebo was a 20-minute job that took 3 hours.
That's the one I got sunburned. And I got sunstroke, didn't I? We were having a midsummer's barbecue.
Just got it built ready for the summer barbecue,
yeah.
Anyway, we was out of practice, weren't we? What should buyers look out for in older properties versus new?
Well, it's interesting, and I'm going to go a little bit off piste here, okay? I get people phoning me up saying, I'm thinking about having a survey done, but the house is only 12 years old. So I don't think I need to bother because it's only 12 years old, okay? Whereas you get someone saying, I need a survey. You definitely have to have a survey because this house is 150 years old. Well, I'm not going to say no to any survey because I believe firmly that they should get it done. But the person that's buying a 12-year-old house, I'm thinking, this is probably one of the most important houses to get a survey on. How do you know it was built properly? You know, the 10-year warranty as such is not there anymore. They've moved out. You know, it hasn't served its apprenticeship. Whereas a 150-year-old house, well, it has served its apprenticeship because it's still standing there.
It stood its test of time.
It stood its test of time. Now, I do think that surveys are equally important, but I think that surveys on newer properties are more important than the general public realise.
Well, we had an instance that property was 4 years old. The guy he loved his training set, built a train track in his loft, and thought the timbers on the struts and on the frame wasn't needed. It's overkill. He was told that they're only there for for the weight of snow, if it ever gets to 10 foot, and missing information. And he cut a lot of the timbers out, and then you could see it sagging. So it's not always how it's built, it's what people do to properties as well. Doesn't matter if they're a year old or 10 years old. Obviously, the length of time that there's less chance of things happening, but we have had that.
Well, with newer properties, Lee, there's been such a bad rep, in the last few years about new properties and the quality of build. When they were doing the Help to Buy, the houses were getting chucked up left, right and centre. And that is why we now have the New Homes Quality Board and we have the New Homes Ombudsman. Now, the RPSA, very instrumental in the whole of that process. We wrote the inspection and reporting standards for that. So there is something called new build snagging, which you're very aware of and you're very good at, actually. You're probably better than any other person I know at doing that because you're experienced within the industry. So customers that are buying a new house, you're paying a premium for it. You're paying it's like a new car in a showroom and that new car smell. It's the same with the house, but it doesn't mean that everything is perfect. We all know about rushing to hit particular deadlines. And yes, there is a guarantee that the first 2 years that basically they'll put anything right. But unless you know how it was meant to be in the first place, what the standards are, you're never going to get anything done, are you?
I mean, that last 5% of quality will cost the builder maybe 25%, 20% of the build, and that's why they try their arm and get away with it. We see it more and more with certain builders. We won't say names, but want the podcast to last longer in a few months. Yes.
Perhaps
standards.
We could have a chat about that
and
one day.
And the builders are even under more pressure now with the statement from Mr. Starmer. Just get on with it and build homes. It's that easy, isn't it? So, how can a buyer get the most out of their survey, and what questions should they ask afterwards?
Well, I think, that's a really difficult one because everybody have different levels of understanding. And actually, I'm surprised at how little questions we are asked once we've carried out a survey. And the reason for that is I think that we've all been taught to write very clear, concise surveys in plain English, plenty of photographs, plenty of descriptions. And in our reports, we have a summary of main issues. So I don't think we're asked as many questions as I would naturally expect, but that's to do with quality of reports. Yeah,
and my advice to buyers is it's never a silly question. It's the only one you never asked.
That's very true.
So if you don't understand anything in reports, please ask, and some people do.
And some people don't.
But pictures, again, that really does help them navigate through the advice in a report. What's being done to encourage more people to enter the surveying profession? Well, I'm not sure about the average age of surveyors, but when I entered it, when I sidestepped from construction, it was about 58. I'm not 58 yet, but you're about that, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I don't know what if Sava. They've helped more surveyors qualify and get to the right standard.
Well, there's a few things here. I mean, you can become a surveyor by getting a degree in surveying. The funny thing is, there isn't a degree out there that I know of that specialises in residential surveying. It is the broad church of surveying generally. The only qualifications for residential surveyors that's purely residential is I came the home inspector route, which was all about that, which is level 6 qualification in domestic properties. Then we have Sava. They're based in Milton Keynes, and yes, there's a 2-year course there to get the valuation and ARICS. What's it? Associated RICS. Asset RICS qualification, and there's probably been about 400 or 500 people that have come through that particular route, which is great because it is all about residential properties. I'm actually going to have a few meetings actually with Sava very, very soon. The funny thing is that the qualification was out of an RPSA initiative many, many years ago, actually, and it was something that I pitched on, and it ended up being where it is today, which is an absolutely fantastic route to get into residential surveying.
I agree. What advice can you give someone considering a career in residential surveying?
Don't do it. Oh dear.
It's a lonely job.
Well, residential surveying, I mean, it is one of the most interesting jobs that I think that it is out there. You never know what any day is going to bring you. Yeah. Every house is different, built differently. There are so many types. And actually getting into residential surveying doesn't mean that you're going to stay residential surveying forever. You might want to specialise in historic buildings or move into other areas, complex land surveying areas. It is the word surveying, very, very broad search. Yeah, there's so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to have an interest in building. So if you're in a restaurant and you're one of these, you're not bored of your missus or partner's conversation, you find yourself looking around like I used to, like that, and fascinated how things are finished and built. And I think it's. I
always thought you had a bad neck.
Yeah. Anyway. Do you have a memorable property or story from your surveying career that stands out?
Oh.
Probably have more ones about me, don't you?
Yeah, probably got more about you. I'm just trying to think. I've been told not to tell. Be very careful what stories I tell, but I could tell a story about taking some students into an empty house.
Oh no, not that one. No. Is that with the water was turned off?
The water was turned off, and
I think my funny one is curiosity killed the cat, as I never test smoke alarms detectors.
Oh, well, that
because generally I can't reach, and plus you're giving a false sense of security if the battery run out 3 months later, the time they move in. But this particular one I could reach, and I did press it, and it was a property in London. And 3 minutes later, 2 fire engines were...
Was that the one where the building shut down and you were locked in as well? Because it was a real high-tech system. And that was all because Alan had done a property
he did
webinar. And it was all to do with a smoke gun, wasn't it? Didn't you buy one? You bought
No, I didn't, but I was thinking about it. But it was in my mind that we should be encouraged to test them and stuff like that, which I think we're being discouraged now. But anyway, so I pressed it and there was 2 fire engines turn up and there were speakers, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" and all that. Yes, sorry, I just tested on a surveyor. And and the roads were blocked because the fire engines are outside, and you know how tight roads are London. It just caused chaos, one touch of a button. But the estate agent should have told me. I did question, why didn't you warn me about, I'm now an inspector, inspecting a property. We didn't know. So anyway,
I've had a few.
Take their word for it.
I've had a few where I've gone into a bedroom and the door's closed behind me and there's no doorknob.
Or the door handle on the other side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, any advice to the surveyor is should do it on the hallway side, isn't it, or the landing side? Test the door, not into a room and get trapped. That's happened to quite a few surveyors, hasn't it?
Yeah. No, I've put my head into lofts with some really serious. I
thought you were going to say you put your head in a gas oven.
No, well, I've done that, yeah.
To see if it was working.
Yeah, no, the gas wasn't on. No, in a loft, and or I've gone in there and I can hear a little bit of a buzzing sound, and I've come across, I think, the biggest wasp's nest I've ever seen in my life, and just had to get out there as quick as possible. Have you ever come across bats before up there? I mean, often you come across them.
No, I haven't. The other day I opened a drain cover and there was a nest of rats, baby rats.
I've never seen that.
Which they was all making noises, and I thought, Oh, and then my kindness to animals, I quickly put it back, took a photo and then put it back because I didn't want the sunlight because they were so pink and stuff. And I thought, that's just, just protecting nature. And
So what are you gonna? How do you report that then to your clients?
I've got to think about it. Yeah.
No,
well, you're always learning it, and when you, as a surveyor, you do come across stuff that you haven't done every day. I mean, that's one I've got to learn about. Yeah.
Well, I've come across rats in back gardens and rats' nests and rat runs.
I'm in London. I've been standing in the street and there's a rat run across my feet. But, yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, that's the first with the rats' nests.
Have you not heard that one?
No.
Not heard anyone say it before?
No.
I'll send you a photo.
No, I've always expected to lift up a drain cover and. I actually had a drain cover. Long story short, I decided to lift this drain cover, which was well beyond what I should have done. And it was a 6-foot chamber and deep, and I dropped it. And it was one of these giant cast iron things.
Oh, yes. I've had that nearly happen. You've got to drag them into spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell I got it out, but I did. But lesson learnt. So
when I was a young surveyor, I lifted ones up with all the benching and around the lid, all cement, and you pull it up and it's tight, and the whole thing comes up. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm sure that's happened to every surveyor.
All part and parcel of the job, really.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about being a surveyor or the chair of the RPSA? Which one would you like to choose?
Well,
which do you like most?
Well, the chair of the RPSA is something that's new, and actually had a little bit of imposter syndrome to start with, and it wasn't something that was my ambition, as it were. But me grabbed the bull by the horns, and I'm
with the retirement of the great Alan Milstein.
Yeah, great man. But yeah, he's still very active. We're good friends, and we're going to work together, I think, on a lot of things in the future. So he's still got a lot to give the industry. Still, no doubt about it.
I should invite him. There are two main surveys in the industry, common ones. What are the difference?
Right, well, okay. I think earlier on, the thing that we have emphasised is evaluation isn't a survey, which is great. Out of the the best known surveys is the Level 2 Home Buyers Report, which is a great all-round report. Is what we call a Level 2 report. It's designed for your more modern properties that haven't undergone too much of a structural change there.
And then there's the wall post chimney.
Whereas you got the Level 3 building survey, which is the more expensive survey. And one of the reasons it does cost a little bit more is you're paying for lots of in-depth advice on putting right major problems or understanding the dynamics of the building there. So it's a more comprehensive report, and yes, it's designed for older properties, perhaps much higher value properties, or properties where there's been a lot of changes that have gone on. So
properties that are listed and you need to follow English heritage advice.
Definitely.
Where you can't use you can't use cement, you need to use lime mortars, and you can't change wood with plastic and so on.
Exactly. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on listed buildings. I mean, they are buildings that are protected by statute, by law. So the most interesting thing about that is that if you buy a listed building, you are responsible for every change that has occurred since the day it was listed, whether you know about it or not. And perhaps that's another reason why surveys are very, very important.
Yes, there's a property not far from here. I won't tell you where we are, but and they've changed 30 windows from wood. It's listed grade 2. It's changed from, they put plastic windows in now. I'm not sure if it was there prior to we bought it, but expensive mistake.
Well, and that is why you need a professional.
For the windows to put in and paying for the windows to take out.
Well, a surveyor could have given that bit of advice in 1 minute flat.
Yeah.
Exactly. Importance of surveys.
We're finished there. That's all for today. Episode of Ask the Surveyor. A big thank you to Andrew McColl for sharing his knowledge and shedding light on what every home buyer should know before picking up the keys. If you found the episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe and share it with everyone currently house hunting or just curious about process. I'm Lee Robinson from Ashton Lee Surveyors. Thanks for listening, and remember, a good survey can save you thousands and a whole lot of stress. Until next time.